It is a profound necessity that we sit down at the dawn of 2026 and examine the true condition of your empire. Because as Machiavelli once warned, the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. Most of you are stepping into this year with neither the cunning of the fox nor the strength of the lion. You are entering 2026 as vassals, owing your labor to masters you've never met, trading decades of your future for the temporary comfort of a plastic card. Today we will have a cold, practical conversation about what must change in how you handle money if you ever intend to stop being a subject and start becoming a sovereign. But before we dismantle the mechanics of your liberation, join a growing brotherhood of men who refuse mediocrity by subscribing to this channel. This is a tribe committed to the ruthless pursuit of financial sovereignty, power, and lasting legacy. We begin with the most effective weapon used against your future: debt. In 2026, eliminating debt or launching an aggressive campaign against it is not optional. It is a strategic requirement for survival. We understand the power of living without debt, not only the psychological freedom it grants, but the brutal mathematical leverage it restores. When you carry debt, your income, the lifeblood of your estate, leaks away every month to strengthen someone else's fortress. You are paying for the privilege of remaining weak. Observe the modern elite, the true top 1% who understand power. They do not use debt to fund depreciating toys or lifestyles they haven't earned. They deploy capital to build, acquire, expand, and dominate. Your greatest wealth building weapon is your income. Every dollar sent to a creditor is a soldier surrendered to the enemy. If the hundreds or thousands you burn each month on car payments and high-interest consumer debt were redirected into assets and investments, you would approach millionaire status with alarming speed. The amount of mathematical power we willingly surrender is staggering. We normalize car payments as if they are birthrights. We swipe credit cards for vacations we haven't earned. We drag student loans like millstones around our necks. Eventually, life becomes nothing but defensive maneuvers, desperate attempts to stay afloat. And all of it begins with one crushing weight: debt. Remove that weight, and the war finally turns in your favor. This is what allows you to shift from defense to offense. In The Prince, Machiavelli reminds us, he who becomes the cause of another's power forges his own ruin. Every time you press submit on a credit card purchase for something you do not need, you strengthen the banks and weaken your own position. You finance their dominance. You engineer your own decline. To reclaim command over your money, you must adopt the most effective weapon ever devised for debt elimination: the debt snowball. You pay the minimum on every obligation and concentrate all remaining firepower on the smallest balance first. Ignore the interest rate. Focus on the victory. This is where the mathematicians protest, but they forget a critical truth. Personal finance is 80% behavior and only 20% knowledge. Your problem is not a lack of intelligence. It is not a missing calculator. The problem is the man in the mirror. If you can discipline that man, he can become wealthy beyond imagination. We already know what to do, just like a diet. We understand calories, macros, discipline, yet we still click checkout and spin ourselves deeper into chaos. You cannot repair a behavioral flaw with a mathematical solution. You correct it with a psychological victory. Paying off the smallest debt gives you momentum. It gives you proof that victory is possible. It's like stepping on the scale and seeing the first 2 pounds disappear. Suddenly you believe, I can do this. As those early wins stack, your confidence hardens, your discipline sharpens, and you begin to crave the feeling of winning, more than the comfort of spending. This system works because it respects human psychology and the probability of completion. People abandon the perfect, mathematical path because they lose morale. They complete this path because they can see the enemy collapsing as each small debt disappears. Momentum becomes your greatest weapon. The payments you once surrendered are now liberated, converted into heavy artillery, aimed at your larger balances. This creates a compounding acceleration toward absolute independence. You are no longer merely surviving. You are building a war chest. This is the first real step toward the life you want. But no empire is built alone. If you have a partner in your household, securing your estate requires unity of command, consolidating forces, eliminating internal friction, and removing the silent sabotage that destroys most men before the war even begins. If you are ready to stop being a vassal and begin constructing your empire, comment the word SOVRIGNTY below to seal this commitment. Because a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. And a household operating with two separate treasuries is a kingdom already inviting its own collapse. This leads us to a difficult truth, one many of you will resist. If you are married in 2026, your objective must be total tactical unity. I see countless men living in financial segregation, his money and her money, as if they are roommates sharing rent, rather than partners building a dynasty. This fragmentation is born of fear, of mistrust, and of weak leadership. But Machiavelli taught that a ruler must always pursue strength through unity. When you merge your spending and your objectives, you are doing far more than shifting numbers on a screen. You are aligning fears, ambitions, values, and vision. History's elite understood this instinctively. From the great banking families like the Medici to modern industrial titans, they treated the family office as a single engine of power. They did not build empires by pulling in opposite directions under one roof. They consolidated resources to amplify influence and accelerate domination. There is no credible data, no legitimate research, and no historical precedent suggesting marriages thrive financially when money remains divided. Every serious indicator points the other direction. Your probability of building massive wealth increases exponentially when you operate as one unit. I often hear men say, "My wife handles the money," or "I let her manage it because I'm not good with numbers." This is not humility, it is dereliction of duty. If you have a father managing a little girl, or a mother managing a little boy, you do not have a marriage, you have a dependency. Both adults must govern. Even if one partner is the tactical specialist, the spreadsheet mind, the analyst, the other must still serve as sovereign authority, reviewing, questioning, and approving every decree. You cannot afford relational laziness and expect strategic victory. In business, you may delegate execution, but you can never delegate responsibility. As the principle goes, you can only expect what you inspect. Remain involved. Ensure alignment with the vision you set together. This brings us to the third pillar of your 2026 strategy, the monthly budget. This is your tactical map. Most people live in a reactive fog. They earn, they spend, and then they wonder where the money vanished when the next bill arrives. That is the behavior of a peasant, not a prince. Victory requires intentionality. No one stumbles into excellence, not in career, not in family, not in wealth. Stephen Covey observed that the first habit of highly effective people is proactivity. They act upon the world. The world does not act upon them. If you managed a company's finances the way you manage your own, you would be terminated for gross negligence. You cannot expect providence, fate, or fortune to bless resources you treat with casual disregard. No one builds or preserves wealth without a plan. The budget is that plan. It assigns every dollar a mission, so you never again wonder where it disappeared. Pause here and examine your own situation. Are you and your partner operating as a unified command, or as two independent entities under one roof? Share your reflection in the comments. Is your current structure accelerating your progress, or quietly sabotaging it? Many people fear budgeting because they perceive it as a cage, a list of restrictions and deprivation. Reframe this through the lens of power. A budget is not a restriction. It is permission to spend with confidence. It allows you to say yes in peace, to groceries, to gifts, to experiences, because every decision fits within the greater strategy. It eliminates anxiety by replacing uncertainty with clarity. When this concept was first introduced, the analytical minds saw it as execution. The free spirits saw it as liberation. Both were correct. Your yes becomes decisive and powerful because it rests on the reality of your treasury. If you need a tool, use something like Every Dollar to track every transaction daily. It is the modern ledger for the modern sovereign. But even the best map is useless without the discipline to follow it, especially when the terrain grows hostile and the path narrows. To reach the summit, you must endure a season of deliberate austerity, a level of restraint that would break weaker men. To build an empire that endures, one must first master the art of the strategic retreat, which brings us to the fourth mandate. You must learn to issue a cold, decisive no to the trivial comforts currently bleeding your treasury dry. If you are still in a season of struggle, if you remain shackled by debt, or standing on the unstable ground of a shallow emergency reserve, then every subscription, every unused gym membership, and every luxury meal becomes a breach in your fortress wall. Machiavelli warned in The Prince that a ruler should not fear the accusation of miserliness, for in time he will be recognized as truly generous. When his people see that through discipline and restraint, his revenues are sufficient to defend the state. In modern language, you must be willing to be called the Grinch today, so you can rule as the king tomorrow. The top 1% did not begin by indulging in the comforts of the masses. Jeff Bezos famously worked from a discarded door used as a desk in Amazon's early days. The titans of history often lived with monastic restraint, while assembling the capital required for conquest. These small indulgences are draining your income silently. But eliminate them for a season, and you will reclaim hundreds, perhaps thousands, of dollars back under your command. You are not destroying your quality of life. You are choosing to live like no one else now, so that later you can live and give like no one else. This is the long game. If you are prepared to prune the dead weight from your life, comment the words CUDP below to signal your resolve. Once your internal treasury is secured through austerity, you must shift attention to fortifying your defenses in 2026. Many men dismiss the unglamorous necessity of insurance, and this negligence is a fatal strategic error. Insurance is the armor of your estate. You may execute a brilliant offense and accumulate wealth, but if your flank remains exposed, one unexpected disaster can shatter everything you've built. The elite do not leave their fortunes to chance. They employ brokers, audits, and routine reviews to ensure maximum protection at minimum cost. They bundle auto and homeowners coverage strategically. They do not set it and forget it. They inspect policies whenever life changes, marriage, children, property, career shifts. They avoid junk policies, short-term disability traps, niche cancer plans, and cosmetic coverage that protects nothing meaningful, and instead concentrate resources on catastrophic risks that could truly sink the ship. This is not merely financial planning. It is strategic defense. Your protection must be as disciplined as your offense. A wise sovereign also understands never to wager the entire kingdom on a single outcome. This is the law of diversification. Even the most basic financial education teaches that stability emerges from distribution. Machiavelli's world was shaped by shifting alliances and sudden catastrophe, much like our modern economy. Even scripture echoes this wisdom. Ecclesiastes advises, divide your portion to 7, or even to 8. For you do not know what misfortune may occur on the earth. This is why intelligent investors favor diversified funds, growth, and income, aggressive growth, and international exposure. When you wager everything on one trend, a single stock, a viral speculation, a crypto frenzy, you are not investing. You are gambling. But when you distribute capital across 90 to 200 companies through disciplined vehicles like Roth IRAs and 401s, you construct a resilient engine, capable of absorbing individual failures without collapsing the whole. Those who build enduring wealth understand safety and compounding growth are allies, not enemies. Refuse to place all your eggs in one basket. In this era of digital warfare, you must defend your identity and privacy with the same seriousness you defend your capital. Every coupon sign-up, newsletter, and giveaway invites unseen data brokers to harvest and resell your personal information. Your digital footprint is part of your estate. It must be cleaned, hardened, and guarded. Tools like DeleteMe become essential in 2026, operating as digital sanitation crews, removing your data from databases you didn't even know existed. Peace of mind is a strategic asset. As your empire grows, you must also consider the formation of the next generation. Just as elite families historically curated the influences surrounding their heirs, you must ensure your children consume truth, not the intellectual noise and moral decay of modern media. Platforms like Minnow, offering biblical, character-forming content, are strategic investments in the quality of your descendants. You are not merely building accounts and assets. You are building lineage and legacy. That requires guarding every gateway to your home, physical, digital, intellectual, and moral. Now that your treasury is stabilized and your defenses reinforced, the final battlefield for sovereignty in 2026 remains the mind. Machiavelli understood that fortune governs half of human action, but leaves the remaining half under our command. We live in a world engineered to feed on fear, inflation cycles, housing volatility, political chaos, and relentless media noise are designed to make you feel small and powerless. But leadership ruled by fear is the signature of a subject, not a ruler. When you allow massive emotional swings, especially fear, to dictate your decisions, you almost always choose incorrectly. A sovereign learns to control what can be controlled and release what cannot. If you cannot influence interest rates, global markets, or the nonsense poured out nightly by the media, then stop allowing them to command your internal state. We witnessed this truth in the 2008 recession, and again during the COVID era. The men who advanced were not those without obstacles. They were those who refused paralysis. They understood that, while they could not command the storm, they could always command the sails of their own vessel. There is a particular toxicity in the air today, a manufactured hopelessness suggesting that the ordinary man no longer has a path upward. This narrative is a trap. It cultivates victimhood, granting moral permission for mediocrity. The reality is far less dramatic and far more empowering. In any generation, roughly 90% of outcomes are driven by personal inputs. Your future will not be determined by presidents, boomers, or abstract economic forces. It will be determined by your discipline and your willingness to consistently take the next correct action. Look at the survivors of Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. When the city lay broken and the future appeared impossible, those who ultimately rebuilt their lives were those who seized control of what remained within their power. Many uprooted themselves, relocated, and rebuilt in new cities. They did not wait for rescue that might never arrive. They acted. If you find yourself trapped in a job, a city, or a system with no viable path to victory, change your position. You are not a tree. You possess mobility, agency, and the obligation of self-improvement. Before we advance to the final pillar of legacy, lock this identity into place. Comment the words OWNIT below to affirm that you are the architect of your outcomes, not a hostage of circumstance. We must also dismantle the illusion of generational warfare, particularly surrounding housing. Every generation believes it has been uniquely priced out of prosperity. In the mid-1980s, a modest home cost around 80,000. Those buyers had watched their parents purchase homes for 12,000 just decades earlier, and they felt the same despair you feel today. Now those same homes sell for 400,000 or 600,000. The numbers change. The struggle remains constant. What truly shifts is expectation. We demand more space, more luxury, more convenience than any prior generation imagined. Machiavelli observed, "He who desires continual success must adapt his conduct to the times." You cannot compete with a fictional past. You must confront the reality of 2026 as it exists, not as you wish it were. This may require smaller homes, relocation to more affordable markets, or extended seasons of sacrifice. Opportunity remains abundant for those willing to pay the price the current era demands. Which brings us to the preservation of your empire through succession planning. Death is inevitable, yet many men behave as though immortality were guaranteed. Failing to create a will is an act of negligence toward your family. As the old saying goes, if you truly despise your family, die without instructions. Your absence will ignite civil war among those you love most. A will is not complex bureaucracy. It is a strategic directive governing the distribution of your power. It must evolve as your life evolves. Marriages, births, acquisitions, and expansions all require updated maps. Communicate your intentions clearly while alive. Ensure that guardians, executors, and heirs understand precisely what is expected of them. Do not allow your legacy to dissolve into chaos and litigation. Let it reflect order, foresight, and command. Finally, we address the spoils of victory. There is no value in conquering the world if you become enslaved by perpetual austerity. For those who have crushed debt, fortified their position, and diversified their holdings, a season arrives when you must learn to enjoy. Ironically, this is often the hardest discipline, especially for men hardened by years of sacrifice. You strengthened the saving muscle. Now you must rehabilitate the spending muscle. Practice enjoying the rewards of your labor. If your net worth stands at $10 million, you do not require permission to purchase a luxury vehicle. You require wisdom to remember that wealth exists for both impact and enjoyment. Live like no one else now, so later you can live and give like no one else. Be generous. Honor those around you. Enjoy the life you fought to build. If this deep dive into the sovereign mindset added value, subscribe to this channel and join a growing brotherhood of men, reclaiming their futures and forging enduring legacies. Take command of your money. Execute your strategy. Build the life of power and peace you deserve.